I want to touch on a couple housekeeping rules. All right, let me pull this up. So the way this podcast is going to work out, we're going to go through a step-by-step interview process. We'll go through different questions, and you're actually encouraged to ask any question that you want to know throughout the experience. If there's things you want to know about the writing experience, or if there's things that you want to know about Chris and Flow Your Mojo. Now, if you stick around till the end, we're actually have a couple exciting things for you. So at the end, we're going to be doing a special free write exercise for you to be able to give your mother a short story. So we're doing a special free write for Mother's Day. So that will be super exciting. And then halfway through the podcast, we're actually going to be doing a live tarot reading workshop. So you're going to want to stick around because we're going to be doing a step-by-step process. We're going to go over this worksheet and we're going to include you in what are the specific questions that you can ask yourself to help be a stronger writer and really get in touch with your creativity. All right. And then that's our show for the day. So let me hop straight into it. We're going to let me bring up Chris. So super exciting. So Chris Lilly is a fellow writer. And let's see, I got this here. So he's a fellow writer who works on young adult fantasy episodic short stories with LGBT characters and themes. He's an actor with a successful YouTube web series called Just Us Guys, with the dream to eventually be an executive producer of a TV show. He is also the fearless leader behind Flow Your Mojo, where he guides screenwriters and authors to channel their creativity through tarot cards. His writing community helps writers discover how to establish healthy writing habits and approach their creative works from a different angle to work with their creativity instead of on it. I'd like to officially bring up and welcome Chris Lilly to the stage.
Hello.
Welcome, Chris. Welcome.
Adjust the camera there.
All right, I'm making sure we're good here. I want to start by saying thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking time to come and sit with me and talk through writing stuff, especially on Mother's Day.
Oh, we're talking tarot and writing. I'm happy to do so.
Awesome. Okay, so before we get into a little bit of how are you, I always have to ask everybody. I'm on a mission to understand creative writing around the entire world, and I have to ask every writer this. What does creative writing mean to you?
I think it's an expression of self. I also I think that creative writing to me is a sense of relief. I'm sorry, not relief, release from things that are holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want me to go longer and deeper into that.
No. That's interesting. I think for me, a lot of times creative writing is self-expression, and it's fascinating because so many writers out there always have a different perception and definition of what is creative writing. And I'm trying to help change my industry. So I'm always curious, but I can totally resonate with that.
Yeah, no, what I've been hearing a lot recently is just how a lot of people aren't getting the support to be the creative writer that they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would ultimately say that it is a release of what the world is holding you back from. Or at least a step forward toward that. And that way you can be your authentic.
Absolutely agreed.
Just being your authentic self and discovering your authentic self. Because sometimes through writing, you don't know.
And I think that's why writing can be such a therapeutic process and healing journey for a lot of writers out there. Yeah. Absolutely. Because they're able to understand okay, here's these traumas that I've experienced, and now I can work through them. Tell stories that are authentic to my own experience in a way that's creative to me and my own self-expression.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so
by the way, Marta, welcome to the stream. Thanks for stopping by, my friend. I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
I just say, "Hi, Marta."
Let's see. Marta was saying for her, creative writing is to write because she was finally pushed to write by herself.
Yeah.
Right. And I could see that happening for a lot of writers out there, right? Especially when we have all these like ideas and we have a support system. And then you hit that point where you're like, you should be a writer. You should go tell that story.
Oh,
Like
I was
you know that friend that's like always telling these like really crazy stories, and you're like, why don't you write a book about it?
true. I also and I didn't know I was a writer until I watched the series finale of Charmed.
Really? So Charmed was your gateway.
Like because I didn't know. I moved out here to LA not knowing what I wanted to do, and I passed. I was just like not sure, and I was here for 3 years.
Okay.
And I was watching the finale of Charmed with some friends, and they were complaining about how one of the actresses looks, and I was like, "Why are you complaining about how they look? This is the last story you're ever going to see." And that's when I was like, "Oh, I am a writer," and I didn't even know. Yeah. So that's my.
Did you start with screenwriting specifically? What was that the way? So you're like, okay, I'm going to just start writing spec scripts. I'm going to start writing like a screenplay.
Yeah. No, actually, what I did is from there, I started taking classes. I developed a pilot, and from that pilot is where that web series came that you mentioned earlier.
Ooh, Justice, guys.
So now
You know what? Okay, so that leads me to a great question. So if you think about your writing journey in a couple of chapters, how would you like split up like your early writing journey, your middle, and kind of where you're at right now? How do you kind of like think about that process?
right now, I would consider my chapter 1 be more of a discovery.
Okay.
Number 2 is more about the doing, or I guess the second act. Act 2 is more like the doing, experimenting
Mhm.
with the do's, the don'ts. Who am I? What stories do I want to tell? What is my voice? That kind of thing, exploring that. And then Act
Mhm.
3 is just, I'm going to say, not expecting a result, not having, not, how do I say this? Not expecting a specific result.
Okay.
Act 3 is more like being proud of what I have created and what I have done and who I am as a person, as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
and not letting other people dictate what I can and cannot write or what I can and cannot do with this life that I have. If that makes sense.
Interesting. No, yeah, that absolutely does. That really does. It sounds like you're trying to make your writing impactful and
It's
really making it
impactful,
like
yes.
really like resonate and connect with people in the same way that you feel and it resonates within yourself.
Yeah, that, and also it's just exercising, taking up space. A lot of
Mhm.
us have, a lot of people are getting notes about why are you writing? It's what you're wasting your time, all this stuff. Instead of being, go for it,
Mhm.
go do what you want to do. And I just think that if we can be all more supportive and just allow ourselves to take up more space, I think that's kind of more of my Act 3. Is more of
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I can actually really resonate with that as well because like I started just writing very early on just to have fun, but then I went into my like college years to like learn all the different areas of writing. And now I'm kind of writing to I think I'm writing to show and help other writers now. And I've kind of hit that point where it's like I understand myself, but I'm writing to show that my writing process can be easier and fun with
yeah,
other writers. It's a
and
process.
yeah, and but the monies can be great,
Mhm.
but if you're doing writing for the money,
Mhm.
I don't think you're going to be completely happy.
Mhm.
And so and that's kind of, to bring this all back to the tarot as well. It kind of brings you back down to who you truly are and what you truly
Mhm.
want and what's underneath that surface. And that's just kind of, if you're just doing this for the money, then you can go off and do something else for just the money. But if you want to
Mhm.
actually experience this life that you have, then that's the best. That's where I think the writing needs to ultimately come from. And then like what I said earlier, without the results, just kind of experiencing what those results are.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. Uh, uh, I think a lot of people out there enjoy what they read, what they watch, what they view, right? And then they also have the need of like, okay, well, I want to make some money, right? So then they get into writing, they start writing a book, start writing a story, not realizing just how long of a process it can be,
Yeah.
right? All the way from brainstorming to writing the drafts to editing to publishing. And we don't
I've
even get into the marketing aspect of being a writer in the 21st century. Like that's a whole nother thing.
I have stories I've been working on for 5 years.
You and me both, my friend. People always like, I always think about like, okay, so how many stories? I probably have like well over 50 stories in just my catalog of just unfinished stories
Yeah.
between shorts, novels, scripts, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And I'm like, is that as I've been continuing to meet more and more writers, I've been realizing, okay, this is actually a very common thing,
Mhm.
much more common than I expected. I thought I was just like an oddball of not finishing stuff.
No, apparently a lot of people have that issue, and
Hmm.
I do feel I don't like the. I like this advice, write every day, but also we're
Hmm.
human, so things come up, and do with that what you will, kind of a thing. But
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
having
that makes sense.
having a specific, not a specific, but just putting more dedication toward what you want out of your writing. And the saying that I'm gonna put up here is, what is it? Energy goes where attention flow. Wait, what is there? Energy flows where attention goes. That's what it is.
Energy flows where attention goes. I actually absolutely love that. I want to like, I am definitely creating a banner for that.
Yep.
Energy goes.
Where attention. Wait, yeah. Energy goes where attention. Wait, energy flows.
Energy flow. I'm like, okay, we're going to get this right.
Yeah.
How many writers does it take?
Energy flows where
Where
attention
attention.
goes. And that's with
Right.
anything in life. That's not just creative. That's just
Hmm.
not creative writing. But if you're going to be really concentrating on learning how to ice skate,
Hmm.
then you're going to get that energy to learn how to ice skate, or that energy is going to flow and get more flow. But if you're not going to pay attention to that, there's going to be no energy there.
I think that's absolutely agree with that, right? I think once we focus our attention, it really lets us really hone in on what we want to improve
Yeah,
upon.
and that's also again what kind of I feel the tarot does as well, because we're
Hmm.
all so distracted. We're,
Hmm.
it's our attention spans, and this TV show and this product, and this family member says this, and this friend did that, and I want to do this activity. Like, it's just there's so much noise.
Hmm.
And pulling a tarot card, I just got chills. Pulling pulling
You're
a,
like, okay, he's saying something good.
pulling a tarot card just kind of gets you centered and grounded into the current moment and
Okay.
into who you are and where you're feeling in that moment. And everything you're feeling in that moment when you pull that card is valid. And
Interesting. So
that's just
you think it helps the most in an age where we're easily distracted, we have competing priorities, and
Mhm.
we're really like, but we want to be creative. It doesn't mean we don't, but it's hard to really focus in on what's important.
Yeah. No, and
Mhm.
that's what I think the tarot does. And I got there's 78 cards in the deck, and they
Mhm.
do all have specific meanings, but ultimately the number one rule that every tarot reader says is don't pay attention to the meaning. Throw that out.
Okay, don't pay attention to the meaning.
Throw that out. It's there, and you're going to learn it as you learn tarot, but
Hmm.
use your intuition when looking at the card. And so
Interesting. Okay.
so the card could have a specific meaning, but if you're just like looking at it, you're like, that's not what I'm seeing here, totally valid.
Hmm.
That's what you are seeing in the moment. That's the question that you have asked. And that's where spirit world, whatever you want to call it, is guiding you.
Hmm.
Creativity, your current life experience, that's where you're
Hmm.
being guided and what you are meant to focus on. Even what your subconscious, if you want to call it your subconscious, that's what you're being focused on and guided to pay attention toward.
Interesting. Okay. I kind of see it as like that like creative part of you that you really have to focus in on to be
Mm-hmm.
able to like do the storytelling, tell the things that you want, and really be able to like have that form of self-expression. Is that the same like concept as that, like the spiritual, like the almost the sixth sense?
I would think so, because a lot of
Okay.
people ask, "What's trending?" Like, well, let's not like that's not going to get you anywhere, because what's trending right now, when you finish that story, like we just said, we all have stories we've been working on for 5 years. In 5
Mhm.
years, it may not be trending.
Yeah,
So,
that's a really good point.
so focus on what you want to write, what you want to read, and
Mhm.
focus more on yourself, and you will
Mhm.
find other people. There are other people out in life that would want to read that. And
That
so,
totally makes sense.
but not knowing who you are and not knowing what you want to write and what you want to say,
Mhm.
because you've got all these different things grabbing your attention.
Mhm.
You're focusing. It's the conscious. You want to go down to the super subconscious. You want to go really.
Yeah, because that's where we find that like real, truly authentic part of our creative abilities, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's that. You want to focus more on the quiet whispering voice that is trying
Interesting.
the
Okay.
quietest voice, who you are, what it's trying to say, what is that feeling trying to tell you,
Mhm.
and how to say it, kind of. And even if it's a negative feeling,
Mhm.
I wouldn't take it as a negative feeling. I would take it as a trigger to pay attention to.
Interesting.
Not a,
Okay.
it's not a negative feeling. It's just there's a message there for you.
Mhm.
So
So
listen,
it's a matter of really paying attention. Would you say that's like your gut feeling?
yeah, gut
Mhm.
feeling. Just paying attention to what that feeling, what that
Mhm.
message, what this card, what this thing has to tell you. And
Okay.
because you're dealing with your intuition, it's not going to come out and say, "Do this." It's going to be journal prompts. It's going to be, "Why am I feeling this over the last 3 weeks? What are you trying to tell me?" Asking that feeling, asking your intuition, "What are you trying to tell me?"
Mhm.
And just free writing that, and then discovering for yourself why you've been feeling the way that you've been feeling.
So your intuition's not just going to walk out and tell you what to do.
No.
No. I guess we're gonna have to write a story for that one, won't we,
Yeah.
writers?
There's, it's like, with tarot, you're going to get a lot of, also with tarot and spirituality stuff and practices in general, you're going to get a lot of different opinions about how things are done. One of the beautiful things about tarot and writing in general is that it's whatever is, there's a word, I just lost it. It's gone. It's whatever resonates most with you.
Mhm.
Whatever is, your life experiences are different from the other person's life experiences. So what you're going to bring to the table is going to be unique to you.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of and that's the same with writing. What your unique experiences are with your life and how you write is going to be unique to you. And like, it's what they say also in screenwriting. I could have the same idea. Girl
Mhm.
goes to magic school and discovers that her boyfriend's bad.
Mhm.
I'm going to write that. You're going to write that. I guarantee you they're going to be two completely different stories.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we're going to have two different creative processes of sharing that story with the world.
Yeah.
And then, like when I think about storytelling, I think about my process, and we each have a style. I break it down into more of like a logistical thing that creates our style, right? As compared to an authentic thing. I think our authentic creative expression is a combination of either world building, character development, plot, structure, and uh did I say, I think
You
world
said
building,
world
character
building.
development, plot, structure, and dialogue. I think style is in some way, shape, or form uses 1 to 5 of these different areas of writing to greater or lesser lengths. I try to break down each of these like things of creative writing to be like, okay, well, you can hone your style. Which one do you want to focus on? Would you rather have your characters like be talking more? Would you rather do more world building stuff and so on and so forth?
See, I come from the screenwriting world, so dialogue is my
You
strength.
and me both. I was like, we know Save the Cat very, very well.
I actually created my own tarot spread for that, but that's a whole different story for that. So I come from the screenwriting world, as you
Mhm.
just said, and so dialogue. I've been told by multiple people that dialogue is my strength,
Ooh,
and
that's amazing. I would say dialogue is probably on the weaker side for me. I tend
okay,
to do
no,
well with world building and character development.
yeah, I've been told by multiple people that dialogue is my strength. So right now, I'm creating, or I'm starting to write and plan to self-publish my own short stories, and
Ooh,
within
that's
those short
exciting.
and within those short stories, even though they're going to be in prose format,
Mhm.
I'm writing them as if somebody is reading a TV show. So there's going to be a lot of
Interesting.
dialogue,
Okay.
and there's still going to be prose. He said, she
Mhm.
said, all this stuff, but it's going to be more coming from the characters as if you're reading it and reading a TV show
Mhm.
versus getting into the character's head and spending a page and a half. He felt this way about this, and why did he
Mhm.
discovering? It's going to be very the characters telling the story, and I'm just the vessel to put it out there.
Right? Because as we know with scripts, right? We have to tell the story through dialogue and action.
Yeah, there will be, and of course there'll be
Mhm.
a little bit of he felt this way because of this, just to get the transition in, because it is a different
Mhm.
format. It's prose.
But I feel like a lot of the times that's really more like because I've gone and I've looked at a lot of really popular, well done scripts at the Guild Library, and a lot of the times you see that they try to leave the emotional, the he felt this way, she felt this way for the actor to be able to.
Oh, agreed.
Mhm.
But again, prose is going to be different than a script. So you're going to,
Absolutely,
so
100% agreed.
that's what I'm saying. There's going to be some prose rules in there, but there's also
Mhm.
no, it's not. But it's going to be as if you're reading a script in prose form,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
That totally does. By the way, I we have a great question here from Marta. Marta was saying, was there any important obstacles? And I think she's asking about, are there any important obstacles from you being able to write, or any obstacles that have like prevented you from writing?
Like your parents or someone that you loved yelling you, but to write,
Yelling at you not to write.
not to write.
Hmm.
No, I haven't really gotten a lot of that. The problem that I've been having more with that is just more of hearing the supportiveness from friends.
Hmm.
It's not that they don't support me, it's that they don't tell me that they support me. Does that make sense?
Interesting. It's not that they don't support you; they don't tell you.
Yeah, or like share
Interesting.
or make a share or something. It's not that they don't
Mhm.
support me. It's just kind of like I haven't really gotten a no for that. I will say though, regarding that, as a teenager, I do think I started kind of writing. I started
Okay.
doing I started doing some fan fiction where I was doing Charmed and Power Rangers, just kind of like crossovers.
Hey, I love that. I started my fan fiction journey, I think, with Heroes, with the
Yeah.
television show.
But as a kid, as parents, they're always like, "Go outside and play. Go do something. Go out and
Hmm.
get some fresh air." And I'm like in my computer, I'm like, I'm happy. I'm playing with Power Rangers. Like I'm fine. So I think there's a little bit of, I don't want to say not support. I think lack of communication about what goals are between people. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It's a lack of communication about what, like, having parents ask, why do you like doing this? What makes you like, understanding their kids about what makes them tick, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I haven't really gotten to know. It's just more of a lack of, I've just more felt like more of a lack of external support, so I've had to just carry it myself.
Yeah, and I think that happens with a lot of writers, right? Because writing writing is such a process, and a lot of the times the world and a lot of the times the writing community views success as, do you have a published book, and
Mhm.
is that published book a best-selling novel?
Yeah.
When
No,
in reality, there's so many logistics to actually having a best-selling novel, which are a lot of times out of your control.
yeah. Which,
Mhm.
by the way, I'm going to rewind a minute. It's not to say that I don't have support writing. There are
Mhm.
plenty of people who do, and there are plenty
Mhm.
of people who have helped me in different ways. It's just I haven't experienced a mass support with that. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like we know that like I know that my family supports me in this
Yeah.
experience. I know that my friends support me, but I don't have a large collective of people saying, I believe in you. This is
Yeah.
I'm your following, right?
Yes.
And I think that's the goal, right? To build up that readership of
Mhm.
people who care about your storytelling.
And to actually go back to the Marta's question with the obstacle, I think the obstacle is more of corporate America. That's a whole
Interesting.
different.
What do you mean by that?
It's going to be a whole different topic, but to touch on it, I kind of
Mhm.
feel like as an artistic endeavor, a lot of corporate America does not support that. And they want you, I feel like there's a little bit of corporate America not supporting creative endeavors because they want you to they want to hire you to make them money. I don't know
I'm
if
not
that
surprised by that. If you're here
going
in the
down a whole
stream right
different
now,
hole.
is that something that like resonates with you? Like, let's say you have like a 9 to 5 job. Do you feel like it's not in your businesses or that company is your job's best interest for you to go out and be creative, do your writing and go become a successful writer? Like, I'm kind of curious. I would love to hear from the community.
Yeah, for me, they're gonna want, and you've heard horror stories. If you become this bestseller author, your company's gonna be like, well, did you write it on our company time? Because now I want it, because now I want some of that. So there's just like a little, I just feel like there's more of the collective American way is go make yourself money through different ways, but being creative, I'm not going to support you in that. I don't know if that's kind of what I've been feeling. That's what I've experienced. Other people might experience different things, but over the last couple of years, I've just discovered that doing creative things is a getting you away from making corporate America money.
And I completely understand that. There was a reason I worked in customer service for a very, very long time. And as much as I wanted to be creative and do the creative stuff, it was never in their best interest because the amount of energy that I had to put forth in those jobs left me with very little energy, especially after all my other, like having a dating life and family and friends and having a hobby and then having the time for the creative stuff. Like that was challenging.
Yeah.
Right. And like my boss didn't want to hear about me writing a book or working on creative stuff unless it pertained to making money for that business.
That's a whole different rabbit hole. Let's move on.
I know we could have like a whole nother conversation on like, all right, how to break out of corporate America as a writer.
Yeah. That's a whole different topic.
But you definitely have a couple of our community agreeing with you. Dana was agreeing about corporate Dana was agreeing with corporate America. By the way, if you're here in the live stream, I had a great interview chat with Dana last week on storytelling. You should also make sure to check out that podcast as well. Dana's an incredible writer. And Mami Tully, let's say I once thought of trying marketing as an outlet for creativity. And I like social media at heart is marketing, right? But it's like people want to feel like they're being marketed to in a way that's authentic by real human beings. Yet we'll go every day and spend the money at Starbucks and go buy a $10 drink because Starbucks is marketed correctly.
You know, marketing as a creative outlet is great for some people. I find it a chore.
Right. And I think it comes down to like, how do you want to creatively express yourself? Right. And I think that's the key of it. Right. And for some people, like doing marketing as a creative outlet works. Like for myself, sometimes when I'm doing like certain stories and I'm using it as marketing purposes, it's creative for me because of the way that I'm writing it and the way that I know people will respond to it.
But I also feel like if you're going into creative marketing or writing for creative marketing, you're marketing somebody else's product. I mean, you can do it for yourself, but you can market it for yourself and maybe take those skills to market yourself later. I just, as you're learning marketing, as you're learning writing for marketing, it just feels like a chore to me.
I totally get that. And I think the important takeaway here is if there's some part of your creative process out there that isn't fun,
Yeah.
then just don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have to do it as part of driving your business, the key is either you invest time and you learn how to do the skill, or you invest money and you pay somebody else to do it. Right. You're either investing time or money.
I agree with that, but I'm also going to bring it a little bit back to tarot and say, ask yourself why you're getting that resistance.
And that's actually a great question. I actually think this is going to be a great segue because I want to hop into our live tarot reading.
All right.
So to bring you the community along, we're going to be doing a live tarot reading. Now, normally, Chris, I know you share this with me. Usually an actual, like a normal tarot reading lasts, you said, anywhere between 1 to 2 hours. It's a process, right?
It can be a process. Mine lasts usually about an hour. I did do tarot readings on the strike picket lines for the actors and the writers last year, and I tried to keep them.
That's like, I just, that's so incredible. Yeah. That is so incredible.
Thank you. I tried to keep them down to 5 to 10 minutes because it was like I got a line.
And so, all of the writers who want to know, all right, so when this strike ends, will my script be picked up?
Some people tried that, and I was like, there's too many energies involved with that. I don't even want to. But no,
so what we're going to do is we're going to do a brief one. We'll do with a single tarot card to give you all an idea of just what it feels like. And then we'll do a little brief workshop, which you will be encouraged if you want to join along.
Yeah.
All right. So how does this work out? I don't think I've been through too many tarot readings specifically, but I did used to work for a psychic for a while. So I'm familiar with the experience, but not specifically tarot.
So what I'm going to do is, first of all, everyone's practice is different. So when you go into a tarot reading, everyone's going to have their different strengths and weaknesses. They're different zones of genius. Mine is tarot and writing. Astrology, I'm lost on. I cannot.
Okay.
For some reason, it just does not stick. So I have a separate deck for that in general.
For astrology. Okay.
A lot of people, and I use that as homework for people, but we'll get to that later. So what I personally, what I've done, and this goes back to me reading Twilight. So Twilight, and this was before I even got into tarot at all, but Twilight, I hated being in her head. I hated it so much, being in her head. And I think that's why I have such a fear or hatred toward getting into a character's head while I'm writing in prose. But so a lot of tarot readers will say, tell me your question, touch my deck, let your energy kind of, flow, kind of a thing. And I got into tarot during the pandemic. So I was like, how can I get people to tell me their question without touching my deck? Because I didn't want, it was a germaphobe situation. So what I did, and I also liked to create an onion kind of effect with my reading. So what I do is I start general and I bring it down in like a funnel.
Okay.
And it's through back and forth. So what I would do is I would traditionally ask you, the querent, to write on a piece of paper somewhere and if you were in front of me, I would take that piece of paper, write down that question, and I would shuffle that piece of paper into the deck.
Interesting. Okay. I love that. I love that writing aspect of it already.
Yeah. So, and that way also, I don't look at the question. That way the deck looks at the question and the deck does what it needs to do. And then I just read the cards and I let the querent, i.e. the questioner, whatever, like put the things together first.
Interesting. Okay.
Where do these messages fit first? How does it fit to my question? And then if I'm like completely off, then we'll have an open discussion. They can say, will I really ask this question? Is this like what, like, let's have a discussion about that. So then
interesting.
So then they can tell me about the question if I'm off or if they want me to know. A lot of people actually end up like can I tell you my question? You were right, but can I tell you my question?
I
And
actually really love that. I love that you let the question work with the cards itself
yeah,
and with the spiritual aspect of it. I think that's pretty cool.
and that way it creates this. It gives them more power in the
Mhm.
reading to make the connections themselves, and I'm just the messenger.
Okay.
That's ultimately what the plan is. And then at the end of the reading, I give them astrology homework because I have a special deck.
Ooh,
Well, I don't know
exciting.
these
So
cards.
then with going through your tarot reading process, your clients get a free deck.
Oh no, they don't get the free deck. They just get the free prompt.
Ooh, the free prompt. So then they get the free prompt, and basically it's homework that they can then use to take with them to
Correct.
better understand their own experience.
Correct. And they can I if they pull up a card and I'm like, well, your card is associated with Leo. I have no idea what Leo is trying to tell you. So you go home and you can look up the astrological sign Leo in what we talked about, and you can
Mhm.
see what Leo was trying to tell you.
Okay, awesome. That totally makes sense.
And
So
then
with that being said, what's the best way to go about this?
well, you wanted what I think we should do is have you ask what question would you like. Don't I wouldn't tell. Well, okay, let's do this. Write down just something off to the side of you what you want to ask. I would
Okay.
like about something. I would make it open ended.
Okay.
How can I attract this? What do I need to pay attention to toward this project? Or you can even make it personal if you want. Like you don't have to do it specifically toward writing, but we're on a writing podcast, so why don't we stick it to writing?
Oh, it will be writing.
Yeah.
My community will probably be able to guess the type of questions I might ask.
You could even
Okay, so
you
I'm
could
going
even,
to write a question.
you could even ask like what should I pay attention to today toward this writing session or toward this project for today or whatever. You don't want to ask a definitive this is for the viewers, but you don't want to ask a definitive question. There are tarot readers who will tell you yes and no questions. This will happen when, this will happen now. I come from tarot with a more intuitive approach and more of an empowerment approach. Instead of letting fate take control of your life, it's more of what can I do to make my life better? Or
Awesome.
what can I do to understand my life better?
So
Instead of waiting for when am I going to get married? When am I going to have kids? Am I pregnant? Like
what I'm doing is I'm asking a how question.
you do you.
Beautiful. All right. So I have this question all written here.
Okay, so what I've done on my end is I've written down my own card. I wrote Jared podcast 5/12/24 creative right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to take that and put that into this deck. This is just the Radiant Rider-Waite Smith deck.
Ooh,
And I'm just going to put it in here and I'm just going to shuffle. And we're going to let the energies do its thing. This piece of paper should go find your question and we're going to see what happens.
All right. I'm going to I got the question right here. I'm like sending forth the energy. We'll see if I can send the energy through across state lines.
Yep. I thought you were in LA for some reason.
I did used to be in LA. I was in LA for about 10 years before I moved out of the area.
When did you leave though?
I want to say I left LA probably about 3 years ago.
Oh, for some reason I had this idea that you were still in LA and I was like, oh, I can go have coffee with them.
Yeah, I moved out for a change of environment because I really wanted to explore Northern California. And then I went from Northern California to Idaho so I could cut costs down and start a business.
You were in Idaho?
Yep. Yes, I am temporarily.
When you said
And by
new,
the way, writing community, if you're just hopping into the stream, we're actually just doing a live tarot reading. Chris is working with his deck right now. I wrote a question that I haven't shown to him, and he put a piece of paper that says my name with the podcast into the tarot deck to get the spiritual energies. I'm going to see if the question that I asked, what answer that the tarot deck, the energy from the tarot deck gives me. So let's see what we get here.
okay. So I've got your cards. I've got a what to pay attention to on top, like what's on the outside,
Okay.
what's on the inside. The
Okay.
card at the bottom of the deck. And I'm just pulling out your astrology stuff for a second.
Okay.
All right. So on the outside, you have the 8 of Swords.
Okay.
Now, the 8 of Swords is usually about a mental trap. And what you need to recognize about this, about your question, is that all these swords are your thoughts that are trapping you. But if you look really closely, she's very open. She's very able to move.
Mm-hmm.
She can easily walk over to one of those swords and just cut the ropes and escape and leave.
Okay.
So it feels right now with this question that you've got a little bit of a mental trap going on, and you're just not feeling like, feels like you're not allowing a new thought to come in.
Interesting. Okay.
It feels like just a mental trap. Like you're just not you're feeling trapped by something of your outside circumstances, and you're not allowing yourself to move forward with it.
Interesting. Okay.
So on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling rather alone by it. This is the Hermit card.
Interesting. So I'm feeling alone by the mental trap that I put myself in.
Yes. And that's putting the 2 cards together. The Hermit
Interesting.
card is an older gentleman who is I like to think of him as he's gathering information before he
Mm-hmm.
goes out into the world with that information and tells people about it.
Okay.
So and usually the Hermit he's a loner.
Okay.
Usually the Hermit it's time to stay inside, telling people like, if you ask a question like, should I go out? And you get the Hermit, like, maybe you shouldn't go out. Kind of a thing like that. But with regards to your question, you're feeling rather alone with it. It feels like what I would recommend you doing is follow this lantern. Mm-hmm. This lantern is probably one of the sword that you can use to cut these ropes off. Mm-hmm. And if you look around, this guy's in complete darkness. Mm-hmm. He can only see what's barely in front of him with that light. Mm-hmm. So with this, you're probably trapping yourself because you're thinking too far ahead. You're probably expecting some sort of a ending. And if you're like, if I don't get that ending, was it a success or was it not? Mm-hmm. Instead of focusing on step 5, focus on step 1.
Interesting.
And then use step 1 to go to step 2, step 2 go to 3, and then as you keep going, you will eventually just find where you want to go. Because what you also want to look at this too is he's got a lot of snow on the ground here. Mm-hmm. So it seems like cold, and cold is like, when you're cold, you're constricted. So it just kind of feels like you're not allowing, there's a not allowance of letting yourself be yourself with whatever question you've asked. Mm-hmm. You're not allowing the warmth to grow or light up whatever you're trying to do with that question.
Interesting. Okay. So the question that I asked specifically, and I found this, I found your explanations very fascinating. It actually works for me twofold, because there's a question that I asked specifically, but then there's also one of my struggles that I've been dealing with, and it actually kind of works for both of them. Mm-hmm. So my guess is I wrote the question down, but then I'm also having an internal struggle. Mm-hmm. And that's actually really interesting that you touched on that. So the question that I wrote down specifically was, how should I market my book, The Last Scarecrow, to reach the most writers, or to reach the most readers? And as y'all know, I'm still in the rough draft process of it. 75% of the way through the rough draft. The marketing portion is still way down the line. So that actually really applies to that. I'm also a new business owner, which this doubles up as. And as a new business owner, I'm trying to figure out how to the right strategies to use to put myself out there to connect with other writers. And part of that is because I do so much strategizing in the future, I could see how too much future strategization could pull me away from the step I have to take right in front of me to get to the next part. So
Yeah.
I absolutely felt that like that absolutely works because like it kind of works for the last scarecrow question, but then it absolutely works for my internal dilemma that I'm having with like, all right, well, what's the right next step of the business for me to be sustainable, keep attracting writers, clients, and all that, and so on and so forth.
See, and what I would further do with this as well is you're trapping yourself mentally with all the other things you need to do. All these other swords are.
Can you move it closer to the camera? I want go perfect. I want everyone to be able to see that.
All these
and then bring up the other card as well. Let's show them side by side. I want to make sure everybody can see both of those because these are both beautiful artworks. So we got the 8. Perfect.
The eight of swords. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
8 of swords and the hermit.
Okay.
And what I would say with the 8 of swords is all those swords are all your marketing that you're thinking about, all your other stuff, but you're trapping yourself, not allowing yourself to just write and be free with whatever you're wanting to write with the scarecrow.
Interesting.
And the hermit is telling you right now, you probably don't need to be doing that. Focus more on the writing, not on the marketing.
Interesting. Well, that is really helpful, Chris. I really appreciate that. That's actually really cool. Not only are those images giving me some ideas, but this conversation is actually giving me a little value.
And what you also want to look at too is behind this character. I keep like going backwards and forwards.
No, that's all right. I'm trying to get it right on the camera.
Back here is a mountain, and behind that mountain, it looks like there's like a city. So that could be the mountain also that you need to climb, but that's later. That's not now.
Unless that's the mountain that my character needs to climb in the story.
It's still
You've definitely given me some. You've given me some absolute great inspiration. So if as you know, I work on Last Scarecrow every day in my writing sprint. So if there's a mountain with a bunch of swords that shows up, y'all know why, community.
There you go.
So by the way, I just want to, Chris, I want to thank you so much for that. That's actually really cool. I just want to welcome, we got a couple people who hopped into the stream. John, welcome in, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. And yes, we're actually just doing a live tarot reading. I wanted to show you guys what the experience was like. Silent, welcome to the stream, my friend. Happy to see you here. Welcome, you guys. So we just did a quick tarot reading. It was super cool. Now, usually, I know Christy shared it's a bit more of a process. Right, it is absolutely a bit more of a process. But in terms of our timing, I want to also make sure that we can give you, the viewer, as much value out of this as well.
I'm going to give you one last piece of homework before we leave this tarot reading.
Okay. All right, give it to me.
Go get out your question.
Okay.
Look up in regards to the 8 of swords. Swords is the element of air.
Okay.
So if you need to look up something astrological for your story, look up the Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius or Aquarius signs and see if they have more answers for you. I would also pay attention for the Hermit. Probably the Hermit is more important because it is a major arcana card. You want to look up Mercury and Virgo. And the Hermit is more associated with Earth.
Interesting. Okay.
So whatever you discover from that, that's your homework. And now we can move on.
Thank you so much for that. That's actually really cool. I'm definitely, after I've done my homework, I'm going to come back and share that with you, Chris, and I'll come share it with the community as well. That's actually really cool.
That's what I do. Because astrology to me just can't. I've tried. I've listened. It's not my zone of genius. It's not my expertise. but I
Mhm.
can at least give homework to people and tell them where they want to go.
So to make this tangible for the viewers here,
Mhm.
as how as a viewer can or how as a writer can writers use like a tarot deck or tarot readings to help like become a better writer?
Well, we're going to do something general because we kind of just
Mhm,
did something more specific. So I'm
mhm.
going to just shuffle the cards really fast and we're just going to
Okay.
pick a card and we can, is this your segue to the worksheet?
Mhm. Yep, 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 yep. So like I wanted to bring up kind of the topic so
Mhm.
that way we can talk through with our viewers. What we actually have for y'all, we have a really cool worksheet that we're going to bring up on the screen that Chris uses with his business Flow Your Mojo. Let me pull it up. And we're actually going to do this. So you're invited if you want to come join us on this pseudo workshop experience. Chris, do you kind of want to walk through what we're going to do right now?
Yeah. So um, a lot of people want to read the symbols and the cards from a more spiritual aspect, a more
Hmm.
spiritual space. Now, I do believe in all that. I believe in the
Hmm.
power of the tarot reading as a personal practice, exercise, guidance, but I formed my practice more specifically to help writers.
Hmm.
And what I've also discovered as I'm writing prose and books is that when you're writing a book, you want to like make the reader feel like they're in the story.
Okay.
What does it smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like? And sometimes to avoid, I just got chills again. Uh, to avoid purple prose, which is just
Mhm.
like this smelled like this for 8 paragraphs. It's just let's just get to the point and just it
Mhm.
smelled like this in 2 or 3 sentences. So what I've done is if you are stuck on a project
Mhm.
and you're like, I don't know what this scene needs, I don't know what this scene wants or whatever, I pull a card and I shuffled. We're gonna just pull a card.
Perfect. And then what I'll do is I'm going to pull up the worksheet as well.
Yeah.
So there's a worksheet that we can do that goes in line with this. I posted in the comments. If you want to check out, go to the link and I'll pull it up. Let's see. Nope. Let's go. I have to actually share the screen. Give me just a second, Chris. So actually, let's share the card while I pull this the screen up.
All right. So without knowing the meaning of the card,
Hmm. Let's go. So
okay,
let's see the card first. There we go.
what this
Interesting.
is
Okay.
take a screenshot. Everyone who's watching, take a screenshot. Then you can
Okay.
look at
Oh, and pull it back just a little bit so we can see the bottom. There we go. Perfect.
it.
So that looks like the 10 of wands.
10 of
So
wands.
we got the 10 of wands. So if you're just tuning in, we're doing a live tarot exercise. So whatever part of your story that you're working on right now, if you feel stuck, we want to use this for the part of your story you're stuck on.
Yeah.
So we got the 10 of wands.
All right. So with this worksheet, what do
And
you
then let me
this
pull
is
up the worksheet. Here we go.
and this is something that you're probably going to want to do on your own time a little bit as well, but
Mhm.
what do you see? And write down what you see.
Okay.
And then what do you hear? And write down what do you hear? And what do you taste? What do you smell? What do you physically feel in your body as you're looking at this card?
Mhm.
What do you feel emotionally when you're looking at this card? Also, I skipped one. What do I feel physically in the card? Like in the card, do you feel yourself carrying these 10 or your character or yourself carrying these poles, these wands? Are the
Interesting.
ones
Okay.
heavy? Are the ones giving you splinters? Or your character splinters or whatever? And then, again, you've got it looks like he's in a desert. So it
Mhm.
could be I feel hot. And he's obviously looks like he's working really, really hard. Um, let's see, let's move down. What numbers do you see on the card? Obviously, we see the number 10, but do you see any other numbers? And again, this is your own personal interpretation. You could see the number 7.
Interesting. So is it so essentially with all these questions we're asking ourselves, right? Like, so like, what do I see? What do I hear? What do I taste? We're essentially leveraging our creative nature to what we're experiencing in this present moment with this specific card.
Correct. And then what you
and we're not like using that for the story yet. We're using just for this card right now.
Correct. Use it
Cool.
just for the story. And well, you can do a little bit of both actually, because it depends on how you start the read for yourself. Usually it's if you want to ask the tarot, my scene is missing something. What is it missing? And if you get this card, go through these prompts, and it will probably tell you what from here you can find out what your scene is missing. Probably not. Your scene is probably not missing all 20 prompts that we're doing right now.
Like if your scene is missing 20 prompts, we might have another problem.
but also like what we discussed earlier, it's you want to get into your super subconscious in your creative mind to figure out what you really want to say in the specific point of your story. So these prompts are just kind of like they feel general, but by the time you finish the worksheet, you'll be more in control of your own mind and your own creativity, and you'll be able to be more focused on what you're trying to ask or add to your project.
Interesting. Okay, so let me pull the worksheet back up, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to drop our displays for just a second so they can see that. And then Chris, you can bring it a little closer to the screen now. There we go. Let's see if this one's better. Yeah, that one's a little better. Perfect. So now we can see both of them. So you can see what I did here. I just started filling out a couple of the ones at the top. Do I necessarily feel stuck in my story, The Last Scarecrow? Not necessarily. Well, I have a plan. I think the point that I'm working on, which I'll be doing, which I was doing yesterday, I think I was trying to figure out like what's the right thing that I needed to do. So I think this is actually a perfect exercise as I'm like, what's the next step for me? So I feel like I'm using this for my own story. Now, as I've started filling these out, so once I have these, Chris, how then do I pertain this, or how do I connect this to where I'm stuck at my story? Or do I just use this as kind of like, okay, this is like inspiration, and now like, okay, this is kind of what I can do for my story now?
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Again, it's kind of depending upon what you've asked the tarot when you begin with.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
If you ask, I think you're kind of combining two things into one.
Okay.
And you're combining a personal goal along with your story goal. So if you just like what we did earlier, that was more of a personal goal for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this one I pulled as I was shuffling, I was pulling this card more as if you're in a story, you're writing your story.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's kind of difficult to do collectively because we didn't really have a collective question to go for. But in my story, let's say I have a character who, I'm trying to backwards.
It's okay. I can give you a specific example because I'm at a specific part in Last Scarecrow, my story where let's just say I'm stuck in.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes, right? So I have the heroes of the Scarecrow and these other characters. 75% of the way through the story, they reached a graveyard filled with fog and tombstones. And I need to get them to the next point where something big's about to happen, but they've landed at the graveyard and I'm not sure what to do in the graveyard for them to get to the next story point.
Okay, so what I would do is I would think about graves and with the 10 of Wands. And so the 10 of Wands are a creative energy.
Okay.
And what I would focus on with that is when you're looking at this, obviously there's a desert, so it's not really quite matching up with being in a grave site unless the grave site is in a desert. Depends on where you want to put that.
Interesting. Okay.
You can use the 10 of Wands as are these 10 shovels? How many characters do you have in this scene? What you could also pay attention to is if you look in the very back here, there's a house.
Oh, okay. I'll pull that up big screen so we can see that.
There's
There
a
we go.
house.
Perfect.
So maybe that's your mausoleum.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's maybe 10 sticks or 10 wands or 10 items that they need to carry to that mausoleum in order to
Mm-hmm.
get to your next scene. It's obviously seems like also to me, it seems like maybe there's a spell that they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to carry all of their supplies to that mausoleum, but there seems to be something heavy with this item that they need to bring with them.
Interesting.
So some of this might be a little bit of backtracking to make sure that if you need to go back a few scenes to figure out how to get to where you need to go, this is some things that you can use to flow that out.
Interesting. It absolutely gives me a lot of ideas as I'm kind of brainstorming and thinking through my story opportunity at this part. What it does is it gives me a lot of different ideas of what I can do to solve the problem.
Correct. And then also, again, like he's traveling to this mausoleum, but the mausoleum, he's carrying all this stuff, so it's heavy. It's on his back. If you know more about the tarot, down at the bottom, there's a what does the card mean? This is completion. Mm-hmm. This is the end of a cycle. Mm-hmm. So at the end of this cycle,
that's exactly what's happening, right? Yeah. Them finding the thing in the graveyard ends the cycle of the journey they've been on, so to speak.
Yeah, and then you could also be what comes after this. What do they need to do? In general, when this card comes up, mm-hmm. the individual is taking on too much. They need to. All the wands are specific.
That is true.
They're taking on all their different. I lost words. Words are lost. All these wands are different responsibilities. That's the word I'm looking for. And so they maybe need to divvy up the responsibilities. Instead of carrying all 10 by themselves, can they bring a team with them and have one person carry 3 and one person carry 2 and help relieve that so they get to the mausoleum faster? Is there something that maybe they're carrying on to something too much emotionally and they need to release that and get this card to be reversed to drop all of the wands and get there faster. Maybe they don't need any of this.
Interesting. Yeah, that absolutely gives me some ideas for the Scarecrow character in all the responsibilities that he's going to have to drop when he discovers the truth of this next major plot point.
Sorry, I'm getting TikTok a little bit of what the card is.
No, yeah, you're good.
But yeah, so that's ultimately how you can use tarot in pulling cards, and from there you can see what works with your story, what doesn't. It gives you a new point of view instead of just being like, my characters are stuck in a cemetery, now what?
Yeah, no, I absolutely see that. So it kind of seems like you would use the combination of this worksheet, right? So I fill out all the answers on this worksheet. It gives me some creative indicators of like, okay, I see this on the card. How could I use that to do this differently? And then you're also doing the reading itself of your understanding of the card to be able to problem solve the specific story problem.
And using your own intuition, connecting
on what feels right. Okay.
Connecting to your own writer's voice, connecting to your story, what your story and how your story wants to be told. Like there's just so many different things you can do with this one picture.
Yeah, and I think it's absolutely given me some inspiration because it does actually speak to the story moment that I'm doing with Last Scarecrow. Because I'm at the moment I'm at is the break from Act 2 to Act 3, where we're about to start leading them towards the climax. But for him to start leading towards the climax, he has to end off the completion of this. Essentially, it's Act 2. Yeah. So the journey that he started was at the beginning of Act 2. Now we're at the end. And I've been trying to figure out how do I do this graveyard to best symbolize the ending of this And I think it gives me the idea that he's going to have to let go of all of this pressure that he's been putting on himself to be able to use and understand his ability for his character ability.
Now I'm going to give you one more insight that I just saw too. We've got
Ooh, okay.
we've got a clear sky.
Okay.
So with the clear sky,
Mhm.
probably you don't need to add in any weather issues with your story right now.
Interesting. Oh, interesting. Okay.
Don't make it a dark and stormy night and let the rain get in his eyes and interrupt him with whatever he's trying. Don't do that.
Mhm.
It just you've got no weather going on here. So just focus on what he needs to do.
Mhm.
If he needs to release something or whatever. But I would, because it's also Act 2, you're
Mhm.
not trying to get him to that last moment of, hold on. Okay, there we go. You're not trying to get him to his last moment where he's like
Mhm.
his last dying moment of what do I do before I ultimately take control of this, whatever beat that is in the Safety Cat. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But you know, the very end when like it's the most desperate point of your character where they make their ultimate decision or
Mhm.
whatever it is. This is because this isn't the end. Obviously, it's the end of Act 2, but it's not
Mhm.
the end of your story. So there's things that you can do using this picture. Like I wouldn't like, you don't need to put in. There are things you don't need to put in, and that would help. That helps you stay a little bit more focused instead
It
of.
does. And I think it's important. It makes me realize that I need to focus this story moment specifically on the Scarecrow,
Yeah.
on the character, instead of putting focus on the other parts, the
Mhm.
other areas of the story.
Now, another thing you could also do is if you go down to number 12,
Mhm.
it says, what were the characters doing before? So with this card, what was he doing before when he started gathering up all these wands and shovels and responsibilities? And that might be
So what would you say before, as in, so for the beat, would you say it was at the beginning of Act 2?
no,
Or would you say before the scene?
before the scene. What were they doing right before the scene? How did they get to this spot? What was the instance? What was the, I guess you could say, the flow of instances if you want to. You can, if you, but what were they doing right before this moment? How did he pick these up? How did he, how is he carrying them? How long has he been carrying them? Like that. How did he take on all these responsibilities? How did he decide to take on all these responsibilities?
Mhm. I think that the character doesn't realize, due to the nature of the world, he doesn't realize that he's been carrying all
And
these things, and all these things have been burdening him, but he doesn't realize how much he's been carrying.
that's usually what the meaning of this card is. It's like you're
Mhm.
carrying too much, release something.
Yeah.
So that's, so that you could just, and then also, what's he going to do after?
Mhm.
What do you want the Scarecrow to do after this scene?
He is going to, without giving anything away, he's going to
Spoilers.
be he's going to be making his way to go deal with our antagonist.
Yeah.
He will be starting the Act 3 journey to go fight the last demon.
There you go.
Mhm.
Now, does he still, as, and this is more of a question for you, as
Mhm.
he's going to do that from Act 2 to Act 3, is he still carrying all this? Or is he actually going to bring a team with him? Or is he just going to drop it all and start fresh?
What's interesting is it will probably be the first time in his journey since the very beginning of the story that he's going to be alone.
Okay.
Alone for the most part, but essentially alone.
And that's also interesting because what comes after the 10 is the 1, the ace.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's usually, once you figure out that it's a completion, you're allowed to start over now. And the next one would be the ace.
Yes, Act 3. So like Act 1 was very much a solo journey. Act 2 has been very much a huge group journey. And then Act 3 goes back to it being a solo journey once
Yeah.
again.
So there's
Mhm.
just from looking at this one card, we got
Mhm.
so much information out of it for you.
Yeah, I feel like just from looking at that, and I could see, like, I didn't fill out the full thing more for time purposes,
Yeah.
but just from talking with you, it's given me different ideas for this story point in the graveyard, which is actually exactly what I needed, because I was struggling to figure out like, okay, what is the thing that I need to write to make this scene as successful as possible.
Yeah.
So it's actually this really helped me out. I'll probably be using this inspiration for when I hop into my next writing sprint tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's ultimately what the tarot can do. Now there are 8 to 9 card spreads. There are, I can create a character with this, with a tarot card with, I mean, with one, yes, but there, I have an 8, there's like a 20 card spread that I use to create a character. What's their past? What's their future? What's their secret? What's a redeeming quality? What's a non-redeeming quality?
Ooh.
Like it's a whole thing.
I love this. I love this process so much. So Chris, let me ask you this. If so for our viewers, if they're interested in getting like more into like tarot reading, is this something that they can do themselves?
Yeah.
Or like what does this process look like? Do they need to speak with a professional like yourself to better understand how to like read the cards?
First of all, tarot is not a closed practice. So
Okay. And what does that mean? What does closed practice mean?
there are closed practices within the spiritual community that sometimes people are, it's more of a, because you're not a part of that culture, you should not be using that part as part of your practice.
Interesting. Okay.
And so usually that's more of dealing with, like, in my experience, it's more like, like your African deities or your deities in general, or practices like that kind of stuff. But tarot is very open, and a lot of people, there is an unspoken rule that is not true. It's fake. They say you need to be gifted a tarot deck in order to be able to start using it, and that's not true. Go out and buy your own deck.
Okay.
My recommendation is, if you're writing a mermaid story, go find a mermaid deck. If you're
writing, so use like whatever you basically want to pick a deck that you just feel inspired by, right? Whether it's the pictures, whether it's the style, whatever. Okay.
Yeah, inspired by. I also think that more of it is also like not picking a deck that almost closely matches what your world looks like already.
Okay. And is that just a matter of like, okay, I need a tarot deck. I'm going to go onto Amazon and type in top 10 tarot decks and see what pops up?
Sure.
Cool.
I mean, I have 3. I have 2 vampire tarot decks, and I'm waiting for a third. I want to buy it. I just haven't done it yet. But one vampire deck is not going to work for this for another vampire story. Sometimes you need to find the right images to match what you're trying to tell. Because then those images. Now, we were just using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, so this is more of a general deck.
Yeah, which I think works perfectly for like a general format like this. But yeah, I know there's so many different styles of tarot decks out there.
Yeah, and that's why I have so many of these behind me, is because if someone comes to me and they're writing a dragon story, I have a dragon deck. If they want to create a dragon,
Chris, can I ask you, do you have a favorite tarot deck? Is there is there like a like your heart always goes into when you use this deck?
I bought the Witch's Tarot. This is what the cover would look like.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
When I went into when I first got into this, I like witches. I like witch stuff. And when I first went to the store, I was like, "What? I like witches. What is the most magical one that your customers buy?" And they gave me the option of doing the Silver Witchcraft. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, okay, the right one.
Silver Witchcraft. And then I saw this witches one, and they told me Silver Witchcraft, everyone loved it. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, but I kind of like this one, because this one has more of like a King Arthur feel to it. And
it does, doesn't it?
And so I was really drawn to that. I liked the pictures, I liked the art, and I ended up buying both of them. And this one's still the one that I gravitate the most toward.
Oh, I absolutely love that.
So that's the one that I use. It's more for me personally, but I have like a wizard deck that I'm using to write my own short stories with, and one short story version. I have the Everyday Witch deck, which is a whole different short story version, short story world, and it just kind of gets me more into that world. But yeah, go buy your own deck and start pulling cards. What do you think is missing in the scene?
Okay.
And from there, yes, learn learn everything. You don't need to learn all of it because it can be overwhelming to learn 78 cards. Plus, when you get 78 cards in reverse, it's
Mm-hmm.
not 70 cards to know, memorize, and use. But start with your intuition, and then
Okay.
learn the meanings of the cards as you go, as you create your practice.
Gotcha. Okay. It's like, don't be afraid to go buy a deck. Start like you have a problem, pull the card. You can learn the process as you're going. I guess like don't be afraid of the experience. It's kind of
Especially
what
with
I'm picking up.
Yeah, especially with what we're doing here.
Mhm.
You know, like what I do for my practice is I read the
Mhm.
instruction book once and then I put it away.
Mhm.
I've never looked at any of these books again. I've read them once just to know what the artist and the author was trying to say.
And each one, like each tarot deck usually comes with like an instruction book of like, this card means this.
Yeah.
Right.
And what
Okay.
the symbols are, what they would prefer
Okay.
this is happening. They tell the story in the card, what's the moment, all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I because all these decks, they're all pretty much the same format.
Mhm.
They all have somewhat of the same meaning, but there's
Mhm.
there's slight differences just with different authors and different images and whatnot.
Okay. That makes sense.
So that's how I've developed my practice. But most practitioners will tell you don't read the book. Most tarot teachers will say just throw the book away.
and kind of like trust your instincts.
Yeah.
I think if it were me and I'm not familiar, I think like my first tarot deck, I'd read the book, understand what the designers, what they wanted me to experience, but then I'd also research and see like what actual tarot readers do and
Mhm.
trying to like merge the two.
Mhm.
I do want to take this moment and open it up to the audience. Let's see. I want to hop into a Q&A. Is for the audience here. Do you have any questions about like the tarot reading process as it pertains to like helping you with your writing? Do you have any questions for Chris or myself about this writing experience? We want to hear from you. Drop your questions down in the comments below. And Chris, while I'm giving the audience a second to kind of to throw up some questions, what can you kind of tell me a little bit about like what your mission is with Flow Your Mojo and kind of what people can expect if they want to come join your community?
I'm discovering that Flow Your Mojo is more about being supportive,
Okay.
a supportive writing community. So in the world that we live in and the world that is in general, it's if it bleeds, it reads.
Okay.
If focusing on the negative, focusing on the pain point, focusing on this to get people to feel so much hurt in order to take action.
Okay.
And I just don't like that. I'm not a fan. I would rather, what I'm discovering for myself is I would rather come from a more supportive aspect.
Okay.
And so Flow Your Mojo is a space where what I'm creating is people can come in to recognize how to take space, not even recognize, just experience taking up space, experience the act of writing without walls,
Okay.
and healing. And in my write-ins, what I do is I've started to, so I was a stand-in for a TV show for a while, and every single day before production, they would all stand in a circle, actors, everyone would stand in a circle and take 15 minutes, and anyone was allowed to say what they needed to say.
Okay.
And I'm bringing that toward my write-ins so that if any writer says, I'm just stuck on this and I feel horrible, or this is what I'm working on, and does anybody have any just like something to get the project going or get your whatever you're holding on to, release it so that you can write it. So I'm just trying to
that makes sense.
I'm just trying to create more of a supportive aspect. And also, if you're into tarot and like spirituality and want to come at it from more of a spiritual perspective versus a academic perspective, just to add a new tool to your writer's toolbox, that's kind of what I am building with Flow Your Mojo.
Wow, that is so cool.
It's just it's my own little corner of the internet that is like, let's go play with tarot cards and write at the same time.
That is so cool. I've been so absolutely inspired by this experience with you. Not just just from like talking through kind of your understanding of that spiritual side and using our sixth sense. And then like the tarot reading itself, both the personalized question absolutely applied to my personal struggle that I'm dealing with just being a new business owner, and then also the struggle that I'm dealing with overcoming that obstacle in the story. So it's absolutely been very helpful, very, very helpful.
Something I will say too is that sometimes a tarot card or tarot reading doesn't make sense right in front, like what we were talking about. I don't know if I said it here or if it was before we were talking, but sometimes you need to let it sit for a minute. Sometimes your intuition needs to like let it marinate for a minute, and then a week later it would be like, oh, that's what it was. And then you'll just
sometimes you just kind of gotta let it absorb.
Yeah,
right?
Because then I had a client once. She was like, none of this is making sense. I don't get anything. And then in her review, she was like, a week later, she's like, oh my god, I was in the shower and it just like, so it's not. So tarot is not going to be your one key to like life. But it will be something for you to recognize what makes you going with your creative activity or creative writing or what you want to say.
That totally makes sense. Absolutely. So it looks like we're getting a lot of people commenting, not necessarily asking questions, but sharing that they're enjoying the experience and that they've learned from the tarot reading.
Yay!
We're definitely getting a lot of fun engagement.
Now, I'm going to say this since this just came out. Yes, the tarot movie did come out. Yes, I saw the tarot movie, and yes, I enjoyed the tarot movie. Tarot as a horror structure
it's a horror movie, right? So it's a horror movie called the Tarot Movie that literally just came out into theaters, right?
Yeah. That is a Hollywood thing.
As we all know, a lot of times supernatural phenomenon is portrayed in movies and films as very sensationalized.
Yeah.
Same thing with psychic medium, same thing with psychic phenomenon. It's portrayed in a way to be as engaging, but it's not always as authentic to the experience.
Correct.
And that I do know from having worked for a psychic for a while.
So tarot, they will always say, if the death card comes up, the death does not equal an actual physical death. It can.
Wait, so if you draw the death card, that doesn't mean you're going to die.
But it also doesn't mean your character is going to die.
Okay.
Death means change. Something needs to die for something to grow.
Okay.
That kind of thing. So yes, the tarot. I personally enjoyed the tarot movie. I like tarot. I like horror movies. Combining the two, I was there. Done.
That's actually really cool. I haven't seen it yet, and I love horror movies. I'm gonna have to check it out.
That's the thing that I would go into if you're going to watch the tarot movie and understand tarot a little bit more, is that tarot as a horror abstract horror subject, horror division is all Hollywood. I come at it as more of a self-help tool, not a fate you're going to die tool.
Chris, I think that would be absolutely a great like full-on conversation to just be able to like talk about with people, because like there's so much misconception around psychic phenomenon, around tarot, I'm sure, as it pertains to Hollywood films and franchises.
Tarot and spirituality is spicy psychology.
Spicy psychology. I like that description.
That's literally all it is. It's just spicy psychology. And if you're having fun with it, and as long as you're not hurting anybody else, go have fun with it and not hurt anybody else and experience it.
Oh, well, I absolutely love that. Thank you for adding that. I'm going to have on my mind the rest of the day. I'm like, all right, I have to go see the tarot movie. I just want to see it.
I highly enjoyed it. I really wish I would have seen a rated R version, because it's PG-13, so the deaths are not as gory or whatever. But it's still creepy. It's still creepy. And I learned new things about tarot, even though it was not like directly supposed to be a tarot, like it's tarot as horror. But even I learned like different ways how to read cards. I learned. So it was
well, because I think it's interesting, and I think when I see movies like that in films and TV shows, right, I think back to the entire process, because the script starts with a writer. A writer probably wrote the script because they either love tarot or they were inspired by tarot, and they're like, hey, what if I make this a horror concept, right?
Yeah.
And then the script itself is probably more about the tarot experience.
Yeah.
But then as it goes through production, as Chris, we both well know what Hollywood is like. As it goes through the production process, it's picked up by the studio. We have producers, we have editors, we have the director. Everyone comes in, it gets adjusted so that way it's visually engaging. And then we now got to market it, and it becomes a different creature entirely. So it's been Hollywoodized, so to speak.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that caveat out there that some people are going to come at it from a religious perspective of this is going to lead me to the devil, right? And that's not, that's Hollywood, that's Christian theology. It's not, I mean, I'm not saying it can't, but it's not, that generally that is not what tarot is used for.
Awesome. Thank you so much for, thank you for clarifying that. I'm sure that fear is very much real. And I'm sure there's so many people out there who have that question, that idea, that sentiment on their mind.
In my perspective, I've just learned to use it as a tool for self-development and self-encouragement versus what is the devil trying to tell me today? How can I like whatever. It's just that's all Christian theology. There is some truth to that, depending upon how you decide to use the cards. But also, again, these are just cardboard. It's just a tool. You can use
that's the truth.
It's the same as a knife. You can cut someone with a knife, or you can cut vegetables with a knife. Like it's just
right. It's literally it's how we use the tools.
Correct. So I just wanted to put that out there.
So what I want to do, Chris, what I want to do is because we're approaching the 1.5 hour mark. So I'm going to wrap this up so that way we can hop into our writing sprint.
Okay.
But before we end off the podcast itself, I have one burning question that I have to ask, because I have to ask every writer this.
Okay.
If tomorrow were your last day on earth and you could leave one final quote for writers to remember you by, what would that quote be?
It'd probably be yourself and keep going. Something very simple.
I love that.
Be yourself, keep going, and also, no one else is going to care. No one else really cares if you succeed or not. If you do it, you'll do it.
I love that. I'm throwing that up as a banner. Be yourself and keep going.
It's just simple. It's just don't let everyone else's opinions cloud you from living the life that you want to live. It's because theoretically, as far as we know, we only get one. Now there are past lives and all that kind of stuff. Again, a whole different subject.
Different subject. I've had multiple lives. I know how it goes.
As far as we know, definitively, scientifically, even though magic is still something science hasn't figured out yet. Whatever, it's a whole different subject. Officially, we know we get one life, and all of this could be made up. All of it, we don't even know. All of it could be made up, and there could be a bunny in heaven for all we know.
Right, we don't know until the final curtain call.
So live your life, be yourself, and don't worry about what other people think, and you'll find your crew. You'll find the people that want to be around you and who will support you and who will boost you up. And you got to be yourself. Don't mask.
Aw. Well, Chris, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today. I feel like I've kind of learned some things about myself that I wasn't even expecting about myself and the story.
Yeah.
And we've had some absolutely great conversations. I'm like, I want to now go buy a tarot deck and then do readings for every story moment. I'm super inspired by this conversation. And I'm sure, and I know from the comments I've been seeing, that our community who's been watching has been inspired as well. And they've been enjoying the conversation. So
you can always come to me for a tarot reading.
Exactly, which is why this is the perfect segue. So if you want to learn more about Chris and flow your mojo and everything that Chris is doing, we have, I've thrown in the link to his, I think it's your link tree. So it's a link that basically links to all of Chris's socials. It links to his website. I threw in the website link as well. It's Flow Your Mojo.
Well, all of it's
the
under
website.
all of it's under chrislily.tv. All of
Okay,
it.
so it's all under chrislily.tv. I'm going to throw that in the comments as well. So it is in the video description. The links are down below, so click on the video description. I know we have a lot of viewers from Facebook right now. I'm going to have to check to make sure that it's in the Facebook description, but it's definitely in the YouTube description on the stream under Kaufman's Corner right now. I'm also going to post this in the comments. Let's see, I want to say it's Chris. Hold on, let me go pull up. I want to make sure I have it. Bear with me just a second. No, we don't need that. So here is, oh, maybe. All right, perfect. And I'm throwing this in the comments right now. So there's the there's for the link tree that basically links to all of Chris's socials, his website, and everything. If you want to go check out more about Chris, you want to go join in some like tarot readings. Like this is actually super exciting. Not like I want some more tarot readings already.
So
you got me hooked before, Chris.
So what I'll say next is that I do have a community called, again, Flow Your Mojo. It's, and currently right now for the first 25 people who join, I'm giving them a 50% lifetime, like 50% off lifetime membership. It's a monthly membership, so it's $22. And in that $22 or every month, you will get like write-ins, tarot lessons, discounted tarot readings, community of other people who are also learning tarot. I don't even know, like there's such a long list. If you go to the link on the website, I know that we're running out of time, and that's why I'm like rushing.
No, you're all good.
But that's like you can see everything, all that kind of stuff.
And it's a 50% discount for the lifetime monthly membership for the first 25 people to join the Flow Your Mojo community.
Correct. And then after that, it'll go up to 44. And
so that link is also in the YouTube video description. I just threw it in the comments. So people can see that. So if you go over and you sign up for Flow Your Mojo to be a part of the community, you got 50% off. And it's only available to the first 25% or the first 25 guests. So make sure you hop on it because it's actually a really cool opportunity.
And then also on top of that, for me, it's 12:30 at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Today, I'm doing an in-depth class discussion on the Fool. So for some people who are having to have a lot of they get overwhelmed learning the 78 cards, I'm actually just going to be discussing the Fool, basically going through the worksheet that we just went through and doing it in depth with the people in the class and just bouncing ideas off of what do you see, what do you hear, what do you taste, and just kind of focusing on who and what the Fool is. And that's starting at 2 p.m. And if you put in this code that you put in there on the screen, that Create 50, you can get 50% off on that class.
Awesome.
Now, if you do decide to become a Flow Your Mojo member, all these classes are free.
Excellent. So if you want to go check out Chris's class, which you said you're doing, I think it's in about an hour and a half from this very moment.
Yeah.
And it's a workshop on understanding and using the card The Fool, which The Fool is a great card. Chris, do you by chance have a Fool card available that you can show on the screen?
I do have a Fool.
I should have asked this before because I love the Fool card. I know I used I don't know if I still have
Fool card. Now he's basic, but there's all the Fool cards will basically have the same thing. This is the Radiant Rider-Waite Smith. It's more traditional, but all these other ones, like the Steampunk one and all the Witches ones, they're all going to be a little different, but they're all pretty much the same thing. That's the Fool card. And
awesome. And your workshop's going to be in about an hour and a half. If you want to go sign up for the workshop, you want to use the discount code Create 50, and then that gives you 50% off. And the class is super cheap. Right, like you guys should definitely go do it. This is a cool experience.
And then on top of that too, these classes are going to be bi-weekly. So in 2 weeks, I'm going to do the Magician, and this Create 50 code will be alive until the first 50. There's 50 coupons available. So once those coupons are gone, they're gone, and each class will be $20 going forward. But again,
and then what time does the class start at, Chris?
2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Perfect. So it's we'll just put 2 p.m. Pacific time. And you want to use discount code.
We're throwing a lot of
create
numbers
50.
at you guys right now.
What was that?
We're throwing a lot of numbers at everyone right now.
Oh, it's all good. So what I'm doing is I'm dropping these in the comments as well, but it is also in the video description.
Yeah,
It absolutely is. I think I just need to make sure Facebook's description is always funky. So it's definitely in the YouTube link because we're streaming to about, no, we don't.
and like I said before, if you do decide to become a Flow Your Mojo member, all these classes are free, and you're for life it'll be $22 a month to get these classes, the write-ins, discounted tarot readings, all that stuff. So, but this Create 50 is more for people who are not quite sure they want to join the community yet, and they just want to see what tarot's all about in the form of writing. Now,
all right. Yes. So I have the links in the Facebook as well, because we have the majority of our viewers right now from Facebook. That has all the things. What I will do is once we end, I'll read through those links up, but they are in the comments as well. Okay. You guys should definitely go hop over and check it out. Super cool.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of I'm giving out a lot of free stuff right now.
Awesome. You guys should definitely take advantage of this, especially because it sounds like the discount code is a one-time offer, and the 50% off for the first 25 members. Like that's a limited amount. So you have to be one of the first 25. So you should probably be quick on top of that.
And we've already got, I think, about 4, but it's give or take.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And once again, it's super cheap. So you should definitely hop on this offer. And with that being said, Chris, like, I want to thank you. Now,
I'm going to say one more thing.
Okay. All right. Go for it.
With all these numbers that we've thrown at you, if you guys are confused, reach out to me. I'm easy to reach out to. If you are confused about what you need, what you want, what you're looking for, what direction you want to go regarding tarot and writing, just reach out to me and I will smooth things out with you, and we will figure out where you want to go and what you want to do.
Absolutely. And if you want to know more, yeah, just ask, right? So if you're interested in any part of the tarot process, or even if you just have a question, shoot Chris a message.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's the best place to start. Even if you're like uncertain, you don't know if you don't ask.
Yeah. And I just want to let you guys all know that was a lot of numbers thrown at you and a lot of links and a lot of stuff. But if you have questions,
it's all good. Essentially it's really two specific offers, right? 25% off or 50% off to become a member, and then 50% off for the class in about an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. So perfect. That's
wonderful. Well, Chris, once again, I want to thank you. Now, as I'm segueing into the next part of this, we're taking a break from the podcast itself. We're actually going to hop into a writing exercise. Now, originally, I know we had talked about it, Chris. Quick question. Actually, before I hop into that, Mommy Telly has a great question for you. Chris, do you do a whole spread for a story? So let's say somebody's trying to like map out the whole story.
We sort of discussed it a little bit. I'm also a Save the Cat reader, and there's a 15 beat sheet. There's those 15 beats that the Save the Cat makes, and I have created my own tarot spread that basically you pull out a card for each of those beats, and you can see your whole story in front of you.
Wow, that's actually really cool.
And that's ultimately cool. That's ultimately one of the things I say too with tarot is that you can literally see the character. If you do the character spread, you can literally see the character in front of you before you even write a word. So it's the same as tarot for your story. You can get these 3 cards. If you want to go really, really basic, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, your whole story. Done.
Interesting. So there's a way to do it as like a general overview. What we did specifically earlier was just for one beat, one story beat, but you could also do it for the entire story.
Correct. And
absolutely.
It turns
I imagine it just depends on whatever your need is of whoever comes to you.
And it also just depends on how in depth you want to go or whatever, because that's ultimately why I'm actually teaching the tarot Fool class coming up, is because So I have a client who's like, I don't know how to read all these cards in it. Like, it's too hard to read 8 cards at once. And I'm like, okay, let's just focus on the one card.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just going to break it down, break it down, break it down, and go from there.
Awesome. Well, Mommy Tully, that was an absolutely great question. Thanks for asking.
Yeah.
So as I'm going to a segue, as y'all know, as part, let's see, as y'all know, as part of our writing community, right? We can't call ourselves writers if we're not doing a little bit of writing. And especially today, we're going to be doing a live writing sprint. Now, because it's Mother's Day, and I had a lot of questions about that yesterday, what better way? We're going to generate an image from ChatGPT, write a story for your mom. Write a short story for your mom, thinking of your mom in mind, and let's create something using our creativity that we can give to them as a quick little gift. We're going to do a 20-minute sprint, and it'll be super easy. Now, Chris, I know we had talked about it earlier. Did you want to join in on this, or did you need to get going?
Let me check my email to see if anyone's like signing up and if I need to like send
Totally no problems. I know we pushed a little bit on time. We had such a great conversation.
So far, it looks like
it's worth it.
good. So far, it looks like we're good. No one's really signed up yet, so maybe it's just too early at the moment. But we'll go from there. But I was actually going to say, so right now I can stay. What I was going to say too is, if you wanted to, this is the Empress, and she's technically the mother of the tarot.
Ooh.
So if you want to,
I think we should probably use that as our inspiration. I think that's actually a great idea.
Yeah, she's the mother. She's considered the mother of the tarot. Mm-hmm. So again, go through your worksheet that you've got access to. And if you are stuck on a writing prompt or whatever,
let's see, Chris, move that a little closer to the screen. What I'll do is I'll take a screenshot, and that way I can pull it up. Perfect. Give me just a second and I'll pull up the screenshot, and we'll use that as the image because like it's Mother's Day. That's literally perfect. Yeah. Right. So screenshot. So I'm going to use that mother as an initial idea. I'm going to throw that into ChatGPT and have that give us an obstacle as well to make it super easy for you, the writers, to join us.
Yeah. Am I good? Can I put this down?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're good. Sorry about that, Chris. You're like, I'm just gonna hold it up here for a while.
I didn't know.
While I'm doing this, it looks like there's another good question from Willow Elizabeth.
Hi, Willow.
Are you able to pull as you go along? Have you have some overview and then do more as people get stuck?
Yes. So I actually found a spreads that you can do daily. And it breaks the story up into specific points of your story per day. And like day 1 might be your opening scene. Day 2 would be creating a cast. Day 3, let's see, there's creating a mentor. Day 4 is creating a sidekick. And then you can get to like day 8, 9, 10, where it's like you can see what goes from the end of Act 1 into the end of Act 2. And it just kind of creates that bridge. And then as you do more spreads, you can get to Act 3 and what's the elixir? How does someone, I was gonna say die, but how does someone end? How does your story end? How do they complete their story? How do they feel about their story? What and then also what comes next. So you don't have to do it all at once. You can do it piece by piece, which is exactly kind of like what I said with the Fool card. Just one thing at a time. And also, again, with what you were struggling with too, Jared, take it one step at a time. Don't think about the end because you haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great like learning thing for me, right? I definitely focus so much on all the things, but got to focus on the thing in front of me as well, right?
pull. You are totally allowed to pull as you go along, and again, just use it as a writing prompt. And if that's just, you will get to the end when you get to the end. I hope that answers your question, Willow. And if not, Willow, I know you. We can always talk about that more.
Okay, so I think I have this here. I wanted to just set this up. I think using that tarot card is actually super cool. All right, so I'm just...
I want to see what this AI thing is that comes up.
It's interesting. We've done this a couple times, Chris, on previous workshops. At the end of the previous podcast episodes, I've started doing this thing with the community where I just put in a writing prompt and then see what the AI gives us. And then we just use that as inspiration for a free write. Mm-hmm. Now, once again, because today's Mother's Day, like we're using this image as inspiration, we'll see what it gives us. Sometimes the images are super cool. Sometimes they suck. So we'll see what it gives us. And then you, the viewer, if you want to join us in on this writing sprint, we can use this as like a story to read to your mom. Something super easy for you.
Put it up on our fridge.
Exactly. So the writing prompt that I did, so I included the image itself. Perfect. So I included the image itself, and then the prompt I'm putting is we're doing a live story writing exercise. Please use this image to generate a new image that has a clear character, obstacle. Let's do antagonist, and or object that we can use as inspiration for a writing prompt. Perfect. And let's see what it gives us. Drum roll. And
I love that you wrote please as well, because we need to be nice to the robots.
We need to be nice to our to the AI overlords. I don't think we're gonna have to deal with it in this lifetime, but if like the AI takes over the world in 10 years, like I'm hoping that they remember that I was kind.
Pleases and thank yous. Always good. Pleases and thank yous.
Oh man. All right. And then let's see. I need to pull up my writing timer. Perfect. And this is just going to be, we'll do it as 20 minutes. So we want to keep it super easy. Let's see what we got here.
So then what happens after this? Do we all just share what we wrote, or is it just
so
practice?
You know what? I've been playing around with different things. So right now I've been sharing mine and the guests. Obviously we can share. We can always open it up to the community. So if people want, like, you're able to write a story and you want to share it, you can always email it to me and we could read it live. That's absolutely something I'd be open to as well. Because I was thinking about that a couple days ago. Is there a way to let the community members share theirs? And I mean, like, I do the live story readings on my Saturday show, the Story and Critique show. But for this, I think I probably need to create a specific place for people to go post stories. But for now, we can read them aloud if anybody wants to share.
I came up with an idea for you. You should totally just have a separate podcast of just reading people's stories from writing prompts.
That's a really great idea. I would probably have a lot of fun with that.
It's a lot of work, but that's something that you could be like,
doing the reading is fun. Doing the readings for me is a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Just make it a whole podcast, and then just that every episode is just someone's own story, if they want to.
Let's see. I'm going to generate this one more time. I think because I'm thinking of Mother's Day, I want to get a female character in here.
Surprising that they gave you kings in there.
What was that?
It's surprising that they gave you kings in there, actually.
I think what it did from the image is it took the regal, the royal style, and it's like, okay, I'm going to take the regal style and make this a royal character.
No, I want moms. I don't want royal.
Exactly. So let's do generate a new generate a new image with a female with a female character. I'll just say generate an image that also image.
What if you went very specific to say generate a new image with a mother character?
Perfect. Generate a new image that has a mother.
Yeah.
Has a mother character.
Yeah.
Perfect. Because I didn't put that specifically into it. So I think that'll be better.
So let's see what AI comes up with now.
I know it continues to surprise me. Sometimes the images are amazing and sometimes they're just mediocre.
No.
As we know with AI, the more specific you give the prompt, the more likely you get what you want.
Yeah.
Let's see, and then I need to open up Word. So let's see, I'm going to pull this up. Oh, well, that's going. I need to pull up a new Word file.
So just to let everyone know, I'm on TikTok as well, but I'm going to take off on TikTok because I just wanted you guys to listen. I don't know if you guys heard any of that, what we were talking about over the last hour and a half, 2 hours, but I wanted to at least let you guys know that this was happening. And I'm going to take off for this writing prompt because I don't think you guys need to watch me just write. And I'm just going to take that off. So thanks for watching. And now TikTok's gone. And now we have, oh, they look too nice.
All right, so I think third time's the charm. So first I got a king character, then we got a mother character, but there's no real like conflict here, so it's not going to do anything for us.
Give me a conflict. Come on,
exactly.
Dude.
So I was specific about a mother character and a conflict this time. So
Yeah.
my gut tells me that third time's going to be the charm. And what's interesting is the previous times we've done this, I would say the first time we got it right on the second trial. Perfect. We got a female character. And we got a very fantastical.
She protecting her kids or whatever you want to call
it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to download both pictures and we'll be able to you can use either picture for inspiration because I think both of them are great opportunities, right? We potentially have maybe a mother character, right? Maybe we got an evil mother character. And then this one, we got a child. So like, I see some possibilities. Let me open up. Going to download the images, pull them up, and then we will get started. All right, awesome. And then where did my timer go? All right, perfect. So I'm all set up, getting set up here. Got to minimize this.
Cool dragon.
Thank you so much. If there's one animal or creature I always love, it's definitely dragons. Whenever people ask me the spirit animal question, I'm like, do dragons count?
You should have told me because I have a dragon deck. I totally could have used the dragon deck for our readings today.
That's totally all right because I don't have I think it was actually perfect doing the generic one for our readers who aren't as familiar or our viewers who aren't as familiar. And I think the pull you did for Last Scarecrow is perfect. I do have a dragon character in that story, but there it's a very minor character.
Well, that's also why I chose the generic deck as well. It's a good starting point.
Okay, so I'm already here. So we got writing exercise. I'm just going to write this. Writing exercise. Do a 20-minute free write for using one of these images inspired by a mother character. And let's just see what comes. I will blow this up so people can see that.
By the way, I wanted to ask you, where did you find the cards in the back that you used the magician for the thumbnail? Where'd you find that? What is that deck? Is that just a
for the let's see, for where is it? I'll pull it up.
You used the magician for the thumbnail, but what is that deck?
Let me see if I can do this. Oh, maybe. I'm like seeing what's actually letting me see the image in the back. So what I actually used for this one, I'll drop you for just a second so we can see it. So what we used for that image specifically, Chris, I did, it was actually AI, or it was a combination of AI and editing.
Okay.
When I was thinking about the thumbnail for this picture, I wanted to think about like, okay, how I wanted to do a tarot cards to kind of like be like, okay, it's like a tarot inspired interview, but I found so many miscellaneous tarot images online. I was like, I knew which tarot cards I wanted to do. So I put the prompts into Chat GBT, came up with some images, did some editing, especially some coloring, some touching up and adjusting of the image to make it visually appealing. Yeah, but essentially they're AI tarot cards.
Because I wanted to buy the deck.
I know, right? I'm like, Chris, I think we're going to have to make a brand new tarot deck using AI.
There's a market for it.
There absolutely is. There was one cool deck that I found online that was similar, but I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull the images. Okay, so you are all good. So let's see. Is that the free? Trisha, it's actually I do the paid version of it because I use ChatGPT so frequently. Not in the creation portion of it itself. I use it to generate certain images, and I'll use it as a brain partner when I'm trying to collaborate and get story ideas. ChatGPT is just an incredible resource for improving the efficiency of back-end processes. Okay, so I got this. I am all set here, Chris. Let me pull up. Oh, I have to re-add this. There we go. Awesome. So I'm all set here. I got the timer. I'm going to minimize that. Pull up so people can see it. And then pull that so that way people can see either of the images. All right. And I am all set. I'm going to throw on some music. So if you're just hopping into the live stream, we're doing a 20-minute free write using one of these images as inspiration.
For your mom. For your mother.
Let's see what we get. Perfect opportunity to write a story for your mother. Is there a difference? Is there a big difference when paid for? Trisha, that's a great question. Usually just get more, you can ask it more questions and you get the GBT 4.0, which is the current algorithm based on, and it scans the current internet. The 3.5, the free version, I think it pulls up until last year. So any like questions that you would have like currently, it just wouldn't work because the 3.5 only applies till 2023, I believe. Great question. Okay, so I'm all set. I'm going to throw up some music because we need some good writer vibe music. All right, we got 20 minutes on the clock. And it's time to write now.
You need a timer. That's it.
Okay.
Pencils
Woo!
down.
And we are time.
Pencils down.
All right. And writing sprint end. Wonderful. Whew. All right. How'd that writing sprint go for you, my friend?
For me, I did it from the bad guy's point of view.
I was like, that was actually really smart. I definitely did it from the sorcerer's point of view, and I think I almost got to the end. I'm like so guilty of going over time on writing sprints. I'm like, I have to finish the story.
I was paying attention, and then at the very end, I was like, the last 5 seconds, I was like, I guess I could write one more sentence, and then it went down to 0. But I ended the scene on mother against mother, and I was like, that's good.
I went sorceress against witch,
All right,
who were both mothers.
there you go. Yeah.
Oh man. So I hope if you're here in the community, if you're here in the live stream, were you able to get a cool little writing sprint done yourself? I was very much inspired by that free write. Very much so. I thought that was a cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we're at the 2:20 mark, let me think. I'm fine with reading my story. Did you want to read what you came up with, Chris? It's
I
like
mean,
totally no
sure.
pressure.
Sure, it's not going to be good, but sure.
And so, as we remember from writing sprints, the goal of these isn't to write something perfect. The
Yeah.
goal is to have fun and just see what comes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Why don't you go for it? You can read, and I'll pull back up. And if you're here in the community and if you want your story read, I'd be happy to read it out loud for you. You can send it to I'll throw up a banner. Want your story read, send it to the creative ghostwriter at gmail.com. Perfect. All right, why don't you go for it, Chris?
All right, so I started with dumping just like what this is, and then I got into the story. So first I wrote, I think I want to tell a story from the bad guy's POV. It seems like a family is under attack and they need to protect their land/area from the intruder. Looks more like the child is from the good person's perspective. Have these creatures stolen the child? Why have they stolen the child? And then I started going into it. And I say, the time has come. The mother creature has been planning the ceremony for years, and today is the day that all of her work and patience has come to be of use. She places all of her supplies next to her cauldron, putting the herbs and spices in the boiling water as her son watches her, learning how to perform the spell that his mother has been rating on about for the past century. Most of the ingredients have been carefully placed into the cauldron, and the mother stirs the mixture carefully. Raising her hands in the air, she screams out a spell, calling on the gods and her family's ancestors to focus all the power on this spell. Her son creature joins in across, raising his hands and simultaneously saying the same spell that his mother told him to memorize ever since he was a child, or ever since he could read. Lightning strikes, indicating that the spell and potion are being performed correctly. The mother creature turns around and looks at the final ingredient to this potion. A child peacefully sleeping on the ground. She points to the sleeping child, and the son creature takes the child in his arms and takes him to the cauldron. As the mother says her final words to her spell, the son creature lifts the child above his head, prepared to sacrifice. The mother concludes her spell and with the point of one finger indicates to drop the child into her potion. Right as he's about to do so, the child wakes, flips out of the sacrifice's hands and says, "Not today." Then the sun creature is stabbed through the back by a golden magic beam, disintegrating him on the spot. The mother creature turns around to see a woman warrior holding the staff with a glowing light at the end of it, ready for a showdown. Mother against mother. That was
very cool.
That was
very cool. We got the cool scenic mother versus mother. We got the magic in there. We got the fight off. I was very entertained by that story.
Yay! I'll take it.
And it looks like you got some love as well. You just got a couple likes and hearts over here. So clearly
Yay!
I'm not alone.
Yay!
Okay, let's see what I came up with. I think mine was kind of a combination of, yeah, I would say mine. What I use like a combination of both of the images. I'll put this one here and this one here. Yeah, mine was definitely a combination of both of them. Okay, so I'll throw that up. Okay. Let's see. We will call this title the old mother. All right, that's what we're gonna call it. She dove through the wall of fog as an eerie, decrepit forest landscape came into view. The trees were gnarled and long devoid of greenery or life. A threatening silence hung in the air, which screamed at the inherent wrongness of this graveyard of a forest. The old sorceress slammed the staff on the ground. The top of her instrument lit up with a circular ring of fire, which cast forth a warm light in a wide radius around her. She glanced down at her hand, noting that her youthful appearance and lack of apparent veins still indicated the illusionment spell. She clasped her hand into a fist. I'm coming for you, young one, she whispered silently to the grim forest ahead. With that, she crept forward silently. A wide ring of fog circled her, where the radius of her staff's light was cast. Her eyes darted from tree to gnarled tree, expecting anyone or anything to leap out and destroy her. She gripped the staff even tighter. No beast would prevent this rescue. She grabbed her head as she walked, imagining the suffering that he may be experiencing at this very moment. Oh, how she had been so foolish and naive to think her protection was enough to stave off this evil. Thousands of years of life, and still she acted like a hapless barmaid. The old sorceress spit at the disgust of whom she had once been. Enough of this foolishness. Time was not on her side. She whipped her long, beautiful brown curly hair behind her and slammed her boot onto the ground. The flame of the staff lit up as she rose off the air and flung herself forward, now flying through the air at a speed more befitting the gravity of the situation. Come to me, my son, she thought out to the surrounding forest. Your mother needs you. She flew faster, desperate now to find him before it was too late. Looking for this? Echoed a rough, ancient, decrepit female voice from every corner of the forest. The old sorceress slowed to a stop as she hovered just above the ground. From within the nearby fog, a hooded figure approached. The cane gripped in her fingers could only indicate she to be the witch. Where is he? She cried. If he has been harmed, I will. What, sweetie? Burn us to death? Perhaps the little one would enjoy that, wouldn't you? The young innocent boy walked out from the fog in a daze of his own world. Seeing him in the flesh pained the old sorceress's heart. Every fiber of her being yearned to hold him. I've come for you, young one. I'd watch out for bigger problems if I were you, sweetie, the old witch warned. The young sorceress was tossed into the nearest tree as another robed skeleton pounded away at her. She could only defend herself with a series of jumps, dodges, and flips as the undead creature clawed at her with a death grip. Even she knew one touch of the dead upon her flesh would end the eternal life she held so dearly. The skeleton stopped short of her face as the witch appeared beside them. Tell you what, sweetie, the young one can return with you. What trickery is this? You only have to give up your eternity magic, is all. Just a modest trade. It finally hit the old sorceress why he had been taken and to what extent she had been lured into the witch's realm. The young one approached her, holding out his hands to be held. She bent down to a knee, looking his beautiful blue eyes. She opened her mouth to find the words, but nothing came out. Mommy, I'm scared. She looked up at the witch, knowing full well the trap had been sprung, before saying, I agree. And with that, the flame disappeared from her staff. She felt the rest of her magic vanish as her eternal life was sapped from her life, and she was left with her and her young child in an empty forest. The end.
The end.
I was like, I knew how I wanted to end it.
You wrote a complete story while I wrote a scene.
But you see the differences. I live stream for now 133 days where I do story writings every single day. So I'm actually used to doing this as like a stream of conscious.
That's true.
But I want to thank you so much for today, Chris. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been fun.
We've had some that was a great writing sprint. Let me just check my email. Yeah, so that was an absolutely fun writing sprint. I feel like I've learned so much. And I know we've had some comments throughout from the community who said that they've really gotten a lot of value from today.
Yeah.
I'm going to just tie off the end of the show, but I'll let you get going because I know you have your workshop.
Yeah, I got a workshop in 25 minutes, so I gotta go.
Awesome. So Chris, thank you again for joining. Make sure if you want to check out more about Chris, I'll plug it all down in the description.
Yep. And I'm again 25 more minutes. So if you want to come and join, we got a couple people. Come on.
There you go. You should go hop over. 50% discount using that code. Create 50. So go over, go join Chris's workshop about the Fool card. It's gonna be super cool.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Aw, of course, my man. I appreciate it, and good luck with the workshop.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Awesome. So I just wanted to tie this off. Thank you so much for joining us today. Like, the Creative Right Now podcast is such a fun experience where I really get to workshop and bring in professional writers, authors, and other industry professionals to really help you elevate your craft. So if you've gotten value from today's interview, make sure to tap that follow and subscribe button. I do these live streams every single day right here on all the social medias. It's centralized through my Kaufman's Corner YouTube channel, but I stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and X. So welcome if you're coming from these areas. Monday through Friday is the Casual Kaufman Writes. It's like a very casual group where I do writing sprints. We talk about writing things and we have a lot of fun. Saturday is the Story and Critique Show where authors will come and submit their stories. I'll do live readings and we do critiques. And then Sundays is always our Creative Right Now podcast. So make sure you're following and subscribe to know about future stuff and come join me on this journey. If you want to learn more about Chris, all the details for his website, his socials, and his workshop are down in the video description below. You should go check it out. That was a super cool experience. For tomorrow, as Monday, we'll be back to our normal Monday writing group. Mondays are super casual. We're probably just going to do some writing sprints all day. So if you need to get some writing, come join me tomorrow. And that is all that we got for you today, writers. Thank you for joining. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kaufman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.